Have you ever felt like you're drowning in obligations, even when you're doing everything right? You wake up tired, drag yourself through the day, and collapse at night, only to repeat the cycle tomorrow. Your calendar is a battlefield of commitments. Your mind, a constant stream of worries. Your body, a vessel of unexplained fatigue. This isn't just physical exhaustion. It's something deeper, something that modern medicine can't fully explain. What if I told you that this exhaustion isn't a sign of weakness or failure, but a profound message from the deepest part of yourself? What you're experiencing is your soul's rebellion against carrying burdens it was never meant to bear. Today, I'll show you why everything leaves you exhausted, and more importantly, how to finally put down what your soul can no longer carry. This feeling of constant exhaustion despite adequate sleep, good nutrition, and even exercise is something millions struggle with silently. We've been conditioned to believe that more productivity, more efficiency, and more optimization will solve our energy crisis. Take another supplement, try another time management technique, push through. But these solutions only address the symptoms, not the cause. Our modern culture celebrates the overextended life, treating exhaustion as a badge of honor rather than a warning sign. What if, instead, we understood exhaustion as our soul's wisdom speaking to us, not a failure of will, but a profound inner knowing that something in our life has fallen out of alignment with our true nature? The concept I want to introduce today is what I call soul burdens, the invisible weights we carry that drain our life force not because of their physical demands, but because of their metaphysical mismatch with our authentic being. Imagine your soul as a vessel designed to carry certain things and not others. When you fill this vessel with elements it wasn't designed to hold, it creates an energetic friction that manifests as chronic fatigue, emotional heaviness, and spiritual malaise. Think of it like wearing shoes that are the wrong size. You can force your feet into them, but every step becomes painful and exhausting. In the same way, we force our souls to carry responsibilities, beliefs, relationships, and identities that don't fit our true nature, and we wonder why we feel so depleted. This inner misalignment creates tension in our nervous system, disrupts our energetic body, and manifests as that bone-deep exhaustion that sleep can't seem to fix. There are 5 types of soul burdens that cause this profound exhaustion, and identifying which ones you're carrying is the first step toward liberation. The first is identity burdens. These are the roles and self-concepts you've adopted that don't align with your authentic self. Maybe you're living as the perpetual caretaker, the flawless professional, or the unwavering pillar of strength. Identity burdens often come disguised as virtues, making them particularly difficult to recognize. They manifest as a sense of constriction, like you're playing a part rather than living freely. The psychological mechanism at work is what Immanuel Kant might call a confusion between your phenomenal self, the self that appears in the social world, and your noumenal self, your true essence beyond appearances. When these two selves fall out of alignment, energy leaks from the gap between who you truly are and who you pretend to be. The wisdom here is that your authentic identity requires no effort to maintain. It's your natural state of being. Any identity that exhausts you to uphold is not truly yours. The second type is responsibility burdens. These are obligations you've assumed that belong to others or to no one at all. Perhaps you're carrying the emotional weight of family members, taking on workplace problems that aren't yours to solve, or feeling responsible for outcomes beyond your control. These burdens manifest as a constant sense of pressure and hypervigilance. Psychologically, you've internalized an excessive locus of control, believing it's your job to manage what cannot or should not be managed by you. Your nervous system remains in a perpetual state of readiness, preparing for problems that aren't yours to solve. The wisdom here is that true responsibility is discriminating, knowing what is and isn't yours to carry. As Kant might suggest, rational autonomy requires understanding the limits of your moral duties, not an endless expansion of them. Third are belief burdens. These are the thought patterns and worldviews that create constant inner conflict. Perhaps you hold beliefs that humans are fundamentally flawed, that you must always be productive to have value, or that security comes only through constant vigilance. These manifest as mental exhaustion, rumination, and cognitive dissonance. The psychological mechanism is that contradictory or false beliefs require enormous energy to maintain against the soul's natural orientation toward truth. Your mind must constantly work to suppress contradictory evidence, creating an exhausting inner division. The wisdom here is that truth aligns with ease. Beliefs that drain you are usually fighting against your deeper knowing. As Kant might say, reason seeks unity and coherence. Beliefs that fragment your inner world will always deplete your vital energy. Fourth are relationship burdens. These are connections that require you to diminish yourself or that create energy deficits rather than exchanges. Perhaps you maintain relationships based on obligation rather than authentic connection, or with people who consistently drain rather than replenish your spirit. These burdens manifest as social exhaustion, dreading interactions, and feeling depleted after certain encounters. Psychologically, misaligned relationships create attachment conflicts between your need for connection and your need for authenticity and safety. Your nervous system remains caught in approach-avoidance cycles, never fully relaxing. The wisdom here is that healthy relationships should feel expansive, not contractive. Kant would remind us that treating others as ends in themselves, rather than means, requires that we also treat ourselves with the same dignity, not sacrificing our well-being for connection. The fifth and final type is temporal burdens. These relate to your relationship with time itself. Perhaps you're living in constant regret about the past, anxiety about the future, or resistance to the present moment. These burdens manifest as chronic stress, inability to be present, and a constant feeling that life is happening either too quickly or too slowly. The psychological mechanism involves disruption of your natural temporal perception, creating desynchronization between your inner rhythms and your lived experience. Your body exists in the present while your mind constantly travels elsewhere, creating an energetic split. The wisdom here is that the soul can only exist in the present moment. Any deviation creates existential friction. Kant might describe this as the mind attempting to escape the conditions of its own existence, creating a metaphysical impossibility that drains vital energy. What drives us to accumulate these soul burdens in the first place? The root cause is often what philosophers like Kant would call a transcendental illusion, mistaking the conditions of our finite existence for limitations that must be overcome. We believe we must be more than human, carry more than is possible, and control more than is natural. Our cultural context reinforces this illusion, celebrating those who appear unburdened by human limitations. But this pursuit is fundamentally misguided, leaving us exhausted from fighting against the very conditions that make our existence possible. I want to pause here and check in with you. Does any of this resonate with your experience? Have you recognized any of these soul burdens in your own life? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Share with me. The soul burden that resonates most with me is, and I notice it shows up in my life when your sharing not only helps you recognize these patterns more clearly, but creates a space for others to feel less alone in their own struggles. There's something deeply healing about naming our invisible burdens and realizing we aren't the only ones carrying them. Now, let's continue our exploration and discover how to set these burdens down. The path to liberation from these soul burdens begins with a practice I call soul discernment, the art of distinguishing between what truly belongs to you and what doesn't. This isn't a matter of shirking responsibility or avoiding difficulty, but rather of aligning with your authentic nature and purpose. Start by setting aside 15 to 20 minutes in a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and bring your awareness to your body, particularly to any areas of tension or heaviness. These physical sensations often point to soul burdens you're carrying. For each area of tension, gently ask, "Does this belong to me?" Notice the immediate response that arises, not from your thinking mind, but from your deeper knowing. When something truly belongs to you, there's a sense of rightness, despite any difficulty it may entail. When it doesn't belong to you, there's a subtle but unmistakable feeling of imposition or constraint. Next, I want you to reflect on the specific burdens we've discussed. For identity burdens, ask yourself, if no one were watching and no one had expectations of me, who would I naturally be? For responsibility burdens, if I knew with certainty what was and wasn't mine to carry, what would I set down right now? For belief burdens, what thoughts do I struggle to maintain against contradictory evidence or inner knowing? For relationship burdens, which connections leave me feeling more alive and which leave me depleted? And for temporal burdens, where does my mind go when it wanders from the present moment, and what am I seeking there? These answers may come immediately or emerge gradually over time. The key is to approach this inquiry with gentle curiosity rather than judgment. As insights arise, you might experience a range of emotions: grief for time, lost carrying unnecessary burdens, anger at systems or relationships that impose them, or fear about who you'll be without them. All these responses are natural parts of the unburdening process. Some burdens have been with us so long that they've become part of our identity, making letting go a form of necessary loss before renewal can occur. There's a profound paradox at the heart of this unburdening process that often confuses people. It's the paradox of effort and surrender. Laying down soul burdens requires both conscious choice and deep surrender. Active discrimination about what you will and won't carry, coupled with the surrender of control over outcomes that aren't yours to determine. This mirrors Kant's concept of the dual nature of human existence. We are both active agents, making moral choices, and finite beings subject to natural laws we didn't create. True freedom comes not from escaping limitations, but from choosing wisely within them. The soul becomes exhausted not from effort itself, but from effort directed against its own nature. This paradox reveals a deeper truth. What exhausts us isn't carrying weight, but carrying the wrong weight. Your soul has its own purpose and natural responsibilities that align with your unique gifts and calling. When you carry these authentic burdens, they may require tremendous effort, but will never deplete your life force in the way misaligned burdens do. In fact, fulfilling your authentic purpose often generates energy rather than consuming it. The transformation we're seeking isn't a life without burdens, but a life carrying only those burdens that belong to us, that align with our deepest nature and purpose. How can you recognize when this transformation is complete? There are several unmistakable signs. First, you'll notice a profound shift in your energy patterns. Not just more energy, but a different quality of energy, marked by presence, clarity, and flow. You'll experience what might be called effortless effort, where action emerges naturally rather than through force of will. Your need for external validation will diminish as your internal compass strengthens. Sleep becomes more restorative, creativity increases, and synchronicities appear more frequently in your life. Perhaps most significantly, you'll develop greater compassion for yourself and others, while simultaneously becoming more discerning about your boundaries and commitments. It's important to understand this transformation within our broader cultural context. Modern Western society functions largely on what Kant would call a hypothetical imperative. We do things for their utility, for what they get us, rather than from an inner sense of rightness. Success is measured by accumulation of wealth, status, experiences, and, yes, even burdens. We're told that taking on more, accomplishing more, and sacrificing more is the path to a meaningful life. This stands in stark contrast to many traditional and indigenous perspectives, which recognize that human beings have natural limits and that wisdom consists not in transcending these limits, but in living harmoniously within them. The revolutionary message here is that laying down burdens isn't selfish or lazy. It's an act of courage that challenges the foundational myths of our achievement-obsessed culture. If you're finding value in these insights and want to continue this journey of unburdening and authenticity, I invite you to join our community by subscribing to this channel. This conversation about soul burdens is just one aspect of the deeper exploration we're undertaking together. Learning to live from our authentic core rather than from conditioning and external expectations. Each week, we explore different dimensions of this journey, offering both philosophical depth and practical tools for transformation. We're creating a space where your deepest questions and insights are welcomed, where we can support each other in remembering who we truly are beneath the roles and responsibilities we've accumulated. This path isn't always easy, but it's infinitely easier when walked together. Click subscribe to join us, and tap the notification bell to make sure you don't miss our conversations about the questions that matter most. What modern science is now discovering aligns remarkably with these ancient insights about soul burdens. Neuroscience has identified how chronic stress and internal conflict affect brain function, particularly through the constant activation of the sympathetic nervous system. When we carry burdens that create inner dissonance, our bodies remain in subtle but persistent states of fight or flight, depleting our energy reserves and disrupting healing processes. Researchers studying psychological coherence have found that alignment between our conscious and unconscious mind, between what we say we want and what we truly desire, significantly affects our energy levels and resilience. The emerging field of psychoneuroimmunology continues to reveal the profound connections between our psychological state and physical vitality, confirming what wisdom traditions have always known, that internal harmony is the foundation of energy and health. In a very real sense, the exhaustion you've been experiencing is not a problem to be solved, but a doorway to be walked through. The soul speaks through the body, and chronic fatigue is often its way of saying, "This path is not mine." By honoring this message rather than suppressing it, you begin a profound journey of return to your authentic nature. The burdens you've been carrying weren't randomly assigned. They emerged from specific beliefs, relationships, and systems that you can now consciously evaluate and potentially release. The energy that returns to you isn't just a reprieve from exhaustion. It's your life force liberated for its true purpose. Remember how we began, with that feeling of drowning in obligations, waking up tired, and dragging yourself through days that never seemed to end. That experience wasn't a failure on your part. It was your soul's wisdom speaking, telling you that something essential had fallen out of alignment. The exhaustion wasn't the problem. It was the messenger. And now you have the tools to not just hear the message, but to respond with clarity and courage. As you practice soul discernment and gradually lay down the burdens that don't belong to you, you're not becoming less responsible, but more authentically so, directing your finite energy toward what truly matters rather than dispersing it across misaligned commitments. The journey ahead isn't about escaping life's challenges or avoiding difficult responsibilities. It's about discerning which challenges and responsibilities align with your authentic nature and purpose. It's about recognizing that what exhausts one person might energize another because our souls have different designs and callings. Your path to vitality lies not in some universal prescription, but in deep attunement to your unique nature. The transformation available to you now is from living under the weight of accumulated burdens to living from the center of your authentic being, still engaged with life's complexities, but carried by purpose rather than depleted by obligation. This is the journey from exhaustion to aliveness, from carrying what depletes you to embodying what fulfills you. And it begins with a single, courageous act of recognition. Your soul can no longer bear what it was never meant to carry, and in that recognition lies your freedom.